Linda, John, and Brenda entered the apartment, preparing for another night of fun, games, and debauchery at the expense of Linda's husband, Mark, who had foolishly allowed himself to become a submissive husband after his birthday 9 months ago. But today something was a little different. Linda looked at the sink full of dirty dishes from last night and wondered why Mark hadn't washed them. After all, this is his responsibility. So is cooking, cleaning, and doing laundry. So what if he has to do household chores while working 2 jobs to pay the bills and her pleasures? He'll pay for this, she swore to herself. She was brought back to reality by Brenda, Mark's sister. What? Linda asked. Look, Brenda said, pointing to something on the dining table. In the middle of the table lay a large brown folder with a letter printed on top. There was a wedding ring on the letter. Linda recognized the ring. It was Mark's ring. What kind of game is he playing this time, she thought. She took the letter and began to read. Linda, the letter began. Not Dear Linda or My Beloved Linda, just Linda. She read on. I can't live like this anymore. The fact is that you, your lover, and my sister are killing me. For the past 9 months, I have allowed you to use and humiliate me, thinking that you would love me if I played the submissive role. I allowed you to humiliate and cuckold me, believing that this was what you wanted. I actually hate it. And now I hate both you and my sister. I thought that if I played the role you wanted, you would love me more, but that didn't happen. I tried to talk to you, discuss this, but you rejected me every time, calling me a loser. You and my sister have made my life hell, and I can no longer participate in your cruel games. Instead of being closer to each other, we grew apart. Moreover, your attitude towards me almost killed me both emotionally and physically. Luckily, my father intervened, and I am now taking steps to correct the situation. I took 3 months off to recover. I won't tell you where I am, but I'll send you my address soon. I don't have a phone, so you can't call me or text me. I also won't have access to the internet or email. I will be allowed to write to you once a week. Whether you want to answer or not is up to you. In the envelope, you will find a temporary separation agreement. We'll talk about divorce when I return in 3 months. In the meantime, you will find that your bank account is frozen and your cards no longer work. All bills will be paid by automatic debit, and you will receive a weekly allowance for food, gas, and incidentals. If you need extra money, I suggest you take it from your lover or do what everyone else does and get a job. This also means that you will now have to take care of the cooking, cleaning, and laundry yourself. I'm no longer your slave. For your information, you will be monitored while I am away, and I will receive weekly reports on your activities. Stay in touch. The letter concluded. It was simply signed, Mark. Oh my God, Linda said, handing the letter to Brenda. Mark left. It seems we've gone too far. Brenda read the letter, and Linda, shocked, looked at the separation papers. After reading her brother's letter, she took out her phone and called her father. Dad, what's going on? Where is Mark? She asked. Do you care? He answered with anger in his voice. He finally told me what you and Linda have been doing to him for the last 9 months. He told me everything. I can't believe my daughter could do this to her own blood. I'm ashamed of you, Brenda, and I can't express how much you disgust me right now. I can't keep you in my house anymore. Pack your things and get out. Today. But Dad, Brenda began. He interrupted her sharply. No buts, Brenda. I want you to leave. Today, he said and ended the call, leaving Brenda stunned with the phone in her hand. She turned to Linda. He really left, she said. And my father just kicked me out of the house. He said Mark told him everything. About everything? Linda asked. Brenda nodded. Yes, about everything, Brenda confirmed. I have nowhere else to go. He said maybe I should stay with you until Mark comes back. Will this be okay? Of course, Linda replied. Well, that means the little cuckold has escaped, John grinned. Why don't we go to the bedroom and celebrate? Not now, John, Linda replied. It's not as fun anymore without Mark. You know that all this was to humiliate him, and now he's gone. I drove him away myself. Well, you're still too good for him, John said. He's just a loser, just like you said. Come on, let's go have some fun. This is what you want. No, John, Brenda intervened. My brother left, and my father just kicked me out of the house. Linda and I need to pick up my things so I can move in with her. So maybe you can just leave for now, and we'll get back to you later. Okay, John agreed, heading towards the door. But know that you both will need it soon, he added, smirking and patting his groin suggestively. After John left, Linda took the phone and called Mark's main place of work, hoping to find out where he was. She decided it was probably just a cruel joke. After going through the auto attendance menu, she finally spoke to his boss, Ryan. Sorry, Mrs. Smith, but your husband is on extended leave with pay, Ryan said, and I was instructed not to give you any details. He told me that he was having serious problems at home, and to be honest, I have been very worried about his health in recent months. Thank you, Ryan, Linda said, ending the call. Then she called the corner store where Mark worked as a cashier. There, she was notified that he had quit a couple of days ago. I understand that he went for some kind of treatment, the manager said. I hope he gets better. He hasn't looked good for the past few months. Linda thanked the manager and ended the call. She also tried to get information from the lawyer who filed the documents, but was similarly rebuffed. She sank onto the sofa, clutching Mark's ring in her hand. Tears streamed down her cheek. He's gone, Linda whispered. He really left. We drove him away. Oh, he just wants to make you feel guilty for what we did to him, Brenda said. It's just a game. He will come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. Just wait. Linda shook her head. I don't think so, she replied. What are we going to do? First, we need to go to my father and pick up my things, Brenda said. And then you need to get drunk and find someone to have good sex with. A few days later, Linda received a postcard with an address at which she could write to her husband. There was no note from Mark. She took a pen and notepad and began to write. My dear Mark, she began. I received your letter and just received an address where I can write to you. Hope you are fine. You have to believe me when I say that I really love you and don't want a divorce. Your father kicked Brenda out of the house, so she's staying with me to help with things here. Did you really tell him everything we did to you? I want you to know that I let myself get carried away with John at your birthday party to make you jealous and determined. I thought you loved me enough to fight for me. Yes, he earns much more than you, and he has a huge size, which is so nice to feel, but believe me, for me it was just sex. It didn't mean anything. And I was only joking when I said that I would let him make me a child, and you would have to raise him as your own. I would never actually do this. I wish you were here so I could tell you all this in person. There is so much that I need to tell you. Please don't hate me, and come back soon. I love you and your sister loves you too. Your loving wife, Linda, she finished. She folded the letter and put it in an envelope. The next day it went by mail. The following week Linda received a letter. Linda, the letter began. Thank you for your letter of March 6th. Yes, I told my father everything, and I mean everything. I wouldn't have done this if he hadn't seen the state I was in and just wouldn't let me leave until I told him. You know how he can extract information. I can tell you he was extremely angry at both of you and not happy with me for allowing this to continue. It doesn't surprise me that he kicked Brenda out. You wrote that you hope everything is fine with me. Honestly, my whole body hurts. Every muscle hurts, but it's a pleasant pain, and I'm told it will get better with time. We are driven from dawn to late evening 6 days a week. Never in my life have I played sports as much as I do now. By the way, the local doctor said that I was severely malnourished, and now I am on a special diet with supplements. Apparently, this is what happens when you have to eat dog food out of a bowl on the floor for 3 months. The only time I could eat properly was when I was working. Plus, I can't describe how wonderful it is to sleep on a real bed instead of that dog crate you and Brenda put up in the garage. Yes, I told my father about this too. You say you love me and so does Brenda, but honestly, I find it hard to believe. In general, it's hard for me to believe anything you say. I loved you both too, and look where it got me. You say you don't want a divorce. Well, I don't want to see you as a wife who cheats and insidiously plans behind my back. Apparently, we don't always get what we want. So are you and Brenda still having a threesome with John? I imagine it's easier now that Brenda lives with you. You're right about one thing, we do have a lot to talk about, and we will when the time comes. Say hi to Brenda for me and keep writing letters, the letter said. It was simply signed Mark. So how is our loser doing? Brenda asked. Linda handed her the letter. He seems fine, but they make them work a lot, and he hurts all over, Linda said. He said hi to you. Oh yeah, and he's on a special diet. They said he was exhausted. I told you, making him eat dog food out of a bowl on the kitchen floor is not a good idea. But it was all for fun, Brenda replied. Do you think he will really see this through to the end? Linda shrugged. I don't know, she said. I think we made a big mistake. Come on, Brenda said. You enjoyed it as much as I did, and you know it. How about inviting John over for the night? Maybe we can all make Mark laugh together again. For example, we can urinate on his clothes. Why not? Linda replied. But first I'll finish writing this letter. But no urinating on his things, okay? Unless you want to wash them yourself later. Whatever you say, Brenda replied. Linda took a pen and paper. My dear, loving husband, she began, thank you for answering me. I wasn't sure whether you would write or not. To be honest, writing letters is somehow strange, especially in the age of instant messengers and email. I'm sorry to hear that you were exhausted. You know it was your sister's idea, right? Yes, I agreed to it, but I thought it was funny. It was also her idea to make you sleep in that dog crate in the garage. I understand that you don't have the best opinion of me right now, and I have to admit that I really have been a bit of a bitch towards you. Please accept my apologies for this. I think it's easy to do that when you have someone like John around. He's a real alpha male, you know, not like you. I think you're more of a beta male who needs to be dominated. Tell me honestly, was I really that bad with you? Seriously, Mark, I need to know something. Do we have hope? You asked if Brenda and I were still having a threesome with John. I won't lie. Yes, John visited us a couple of times, and he paid attention to both of us. And yes, it was great, even fantastic, although it wasn't as fun without you. Tell me what you do there. Do you like it? Are you really in Idaho? I only have a mailbox for sending letters. Never been there. How is it there? Well, it's time for me to go. Without you, I have to help maintain order. Your loving wife, Linda. P.S. Brenda says hi, she wrote. The next letter arrived about 6 days later. Linda, the letter began, it was nice to receive a letter from you again. Thanks for it. Yes, communicating this way is a little strange, isn't it? Imagine, this is how our grandparents kept in touch in their time. Do you think it was funny that your sister made me eat dog food out of a bowl on the kitchen floor, in a kitchen that I paid for myself with honest work, and you thought it was funny locking me in a dog cage in the garage, even in the coldest winter? Did you also think it was funny that she suggested putting on a sex toy and humiliating me? Although it didn't come to that, I'll tell you that I didn't have a bit of fun. Not for a second. The very fact that you found it funny suggests that you are a sick, perverted creature. So why didn't you stop her? Was she really that caught up in lust for John and hatred for me? Oh, of course, now you write that you love me, but I think it's only because I'm not around now, so you can torture and humiliate me. Or is it because now I can't pay for your depraved fun? Tell me, is my allowance even enough for you? Does Brenda add anything at all? You asked if you were that bad to me. In a word, yes. By the way, I know that John visits you almost every night. I also know that a couple of times he came with a few of his friends. Glad I wasn't there to see it. I hope you and Brenda cleaned the apartment after these visits. By the way, the complex does not approve of noisy parties. I wouldn't want you to be evicted and end up on the street. You could probably live with John if he agrees, or you will have to spend the night under a bridge. You asked if we had hope. At the moment, I do not see such a possibility. Unless you come to your senses, but even then, I'm not sure it's possible. If you continue like this, then we will definitely have no hope. You wanted to know what we're doing here and whether I like it. We are woken up early every morning. We do gymnastics, then run for breakfast. After that, we ran for training. Then we work out on the machines, run again, and train again. Do I like it? It was difficult at first, but now I'm starting to like it. And no matter how surprised you may be, I'm already developing muscles. I'm not the skinny guy you married anymore, trust me. As for where I am, you know I can't reveal it. But I'll tell you that I really like it here. The air is fresh and clean, not like in your sewer. Everything is green here. There are mountains, forests, lakes everywhere. There's even wildlife here, deer, bears, you name it. The other day I saw an eagle soaring high in the sky, imagine that. Well, I have to go, we have a smoking break now. Yes, I started smoking, but only 1 or 2 cigarettes a day. Everyone here smokes. It's the only break all day, and I look forward to it. Maybe I'll quit when I get home, maybe not. Say hi to Brenda. The letter ended. The signature, as usual, was simply Mark, and not a word about love for Linda. Well, what did our pathetic loser write this time? Brenda asked. As usual, Linda gave her a letter. Yes, as usual, Linda replied. Read it yourself. Brenda giggled as she read. Listen, don't you think he's changing? This is not the Mark I remember, Brenda said. He sounds, well, more determined. It's unusual to see this from him. And started smoking. This doesn't look like him. And he called you a sick, twisted creature. We've gone too far, Linda said. And he knows that we've had other guys here. I'm losing it. Forever. So what? He's a loser, Brenda said. He'll always be a pathetic little loser. You're better off without him. Now he speaks impudently only because he is not around. Remember, he ran away because he wasn't brave enough to stand up to you. He never had the courage to stand up to you. Why do you think he let you and John humiliate him at his own birthday party? Trust me, as soon as you meet face to face, everything will return to normal. Maybe, Linda said, picking up a pen and paper. My dear husband Mark, she began, I received your last letter. Thank you for writing. I'm a little worried about the tone of your letter. You've never called me sick, perverted, or a creature before. Is this what you think of me now? Say it's not true. I admit I went too far in some things. And no, I didn't find it funny when Brenda suggested using that sex toy on you. If I hadn't been there, I think she would have actually done it. Yes, I am attracted to John, but only because he has great dignity. Believe me, he would not have made a good husband, not like you. Only himself is important to him. It seems you got it all wrong. Yes, I laughed when Brenda locked you in a cage, but I didn't really like it. She just kept pushing, and you kept giving in. Okay, I pushed too, but it was all for fun, like at your birthday. I still couldn't understand. I flirted with John at your birthday party, and you just watched. Why didn't you come and tell me to stop? Why didn't you fight for me? Thank you for answering me honestly. I didn't know I was so mean to you. Can you ever forgive me? And do you still love me? As for the allowance, it helps a lot, but it's still not enough. I had to get a job at the McDonald's next door. The salary is small, but at least it's something. Brenda also contributes part of her salary, but recently she had to spend money on car repairs. Usually your father was able to help in such matters, but now he seems to have completely disowned her and does not want to communicate with her. Anyway, it's time for me to get ready for work. I look forward to your next letter. Please remember that I love you. And Brenda says hi. Your loving wife, Linda, she wrote, folded the letter and put it in an envelope, wondering what his reaction would be. About 6 days later, she received a response. Linda, the letter began, thank you for your last letter. Glad you found a job. It's not so fun to work all day and try to keep the house in order, right? Imagine working 2 jobs for 12, 16 hours a day and then coming home to cook, clean, do laundry, and also endure humiliation from your family, which, by the way, at this time feeds and pleases some muscular idiot right in your bed. So, the whole point is that this ignoramus has great dignity, right? Are you saying that if I were plus size and I treated you like a cheap girl instead of appreciating you, you would respect and love me, and you think humiliating and bullying me is fun. You asked why I didn't stop you on my birthday. I wish I knew the answer to this question. If I knew then what I know now, I would have slapped you right there. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll have a smart answer for you. We begin phase 2 of the program next week, which includes group sessions and therapy. Now, I don't know if I can forgive you. You almost killed me, and it's hard to forgive. As for love, I loved the woman I married, and now it's not you. You also wanted to know if I really think you are a sick, twisted creature. Ask yourself this question. What would you think of me if I did even half of what you did to me? When you find the answer, then you will know what I think about you. And don't even ask me what I think about that slimy bastard who calls herself my sister. By the way, I received a letter from the manager of the complex. They wrote that if you and Brenda don't stop throwing loud parties, you will be evicted from my apartment. This is your last warning. If you don't want to end up on the street, you better stop this damn party. See you later, Mark, the letter concluded. So what did our loser say this time? Brenda asked. As usual, Linda handed her the letter. He says he hates us and that we need to stop partying if we don't want to get evicted, Linda said. Damn, Brenda said. He called John an illiterate bubble. I never would have thought that my little brother could be so rude. It's even funny, really. He also called me slippery trash. Is that how it is? Linda took a pen and paper. My dear Mark, she wrote, your last letter sounded even angrier than the previous one. You're right, working all day and then coming home to clean and do laundry isn't much fun. I don't think I ever wondered what it was like for you, working 2 jobs and then doing all the housework. Brenda thought it was funny that you called John an illiterate bubble. By the way, isn't he your friend? She didn't like it at all that you called her slippery trash. Is this really how you treat us? Did we make you hate us so much? I am still the same woman you married, although you don't believe me. I never meant to hurt you. All I wanted was for you to have a little courage. I didn't think it would go this far. I don't think I even thought about how you felt all these months. Forgive me for this. I just got hooked on John's size. You have no idea how much I love it when he's inside me. You know, he's much bigger than you. I really hope these group sessions help you. Perhaps you can forgive me. I'd like that. I don't want a divorce at all. I wish everything could be like it was before. With love, your wife, Linda, she said as she finished the letter. The answer came a week later. Linda, the letter from Mark began. We started the second phase, and the first session was a group one, where everyone had to tell their story. I was very nervous, but after listening to the other guys' stories, I was able to cope. Everyone supported me, even the instructors, who usually act like real jerks. But to be honest, after all these stories, a thought occurred to me. Is there any special school where they teach how to become such bitches? I know it's not, but damn. Some guys' stories were so vile that they made you look like an innocent schoolgirl. As for my ex-friend, yes, he was once, but not anymore. Friends don't act like him. And period. For me, he died, and you can give it to him. If he doesn't like it, I'll be happy to discuss it when I get back. As for his size, I have long known that he is larger. You reminded me of this several times a day when you slept with him in my bed, the one I paid for. By the way, you know you're not the only married woman he's sleeping with, right? I know for sure that he is cheating on you with at least 3 other women. It may not matter to you, but I promise their husbands will care. To your question about whether I hate you, I will say, yes. And I don't care what Brenda thinks. She is to blame for what happened to me just as much as you are. I know you don't want a divorce, but it's inevitable. As they say, wish in one hand and shit in the other, and see which one fills up faster. No, nothing will return to the way it was while I was gone. And no, you are not the woman I married. The woman I married was loving, warm, and sensitive. This is not who you are now. Or perhaps you were hiding your true self, and I was too blind to see it. By the way, I received a report from people who are watching you. How many guys did you and Brenda pick up at that club over the weekend? I hope you have the common sense to get tested for STDs. By the way, I recently had a very erotic dream. I was told that this happens here sometimes. Maybe it's from diet, exercise, supplements, and fresh air. I don't know. All I know is that this hasn't happened to me since before we got married. God, it was wonderful. Okay, I have to go. I have a few more letters before I take a smoke break. See you. Mark. The letter ended. Crap, Linda exclaimed after reading the letter. What? Brenda asked. Linda handed her the letter again. He knows about our night at the club, she said. He asked how many guys we shot. He is changing, and I don't like it. What have we done? He really hates us. And who is this girl from his dream? Who cares? Brenda replied. We were just having a little fun. You enjoyed yourself, didn't you? Of course, Linda replied. Moreover, Brenda added, he wouldn't even be able to sleep with someone in his dreams if it weren't for his dreams. Linda sat down to write the answer. My dear Mark, she began, I received your last letter, and I must admit that you scare me. I am still the loving woman you married. I don't like John. I love you. What I have with John is just animal sex. This shouldn't take anything away from you. Besides, you didn't complain when I flirted with him at your birthday party, and he didn't complain when Brenda and I had sex with him in our bed. And please tell me that you don't really hate me. I know you're upset. You have the right to this. I would be upset too. It would hurt me to think about you with another woman. And speaking of the other woman, who is the one you dreamed about? Was it me? Tell me it wasn't Brenda. If it wasn't me, then who was it? Yes, Brenda. John and I went to a club just to relieve some stress and got a little carried away. I don't remember how many men were there, but I had more sex that night than I've had in my entire life. And yes, I will get tested for STDs. I don't want to infect you with anything. I hope you don't think too badly of John. He talks about you often and appreciates you. It would hurt him if he found out that you no longer respect him. By the way, he wants to write to you. Can I give him your address? Please, Mark, tell me that things will work out between us. I don't want to lose you, and I'm so sorry for the way we treated you. Please come back to me. With love, your wife, Linda. A week later, she received an answer. Linda, the letter began. Don't worry about infecting me. This won't happen because I'm not going to touch you. But despite this, I still don't want you to catch any infection. There are some pretty nasty diseases out there now, and no matter what I think of you, I don't want you to die of AIDS. Regarding the woman I dreamed about, you should know that it wasn't you. And no, it's not Brenda. God, the very thought of it makes me nauseous. This is someone we both know, by the way. I wrote to her and told her about my dream. You know what? She answered me. It turned out that she also thought a lot about me, and she's really disgusted by what you did. Honestly, I don't care how many men you have now. Just don't do this in my apartment. As for your friend, I don't give a damn what he thinks. Remember, he was the one who told you to never have sex with me again. A friend doesn't do that. So no, you can't give him my address. I don't want to hear from him. Moreover, if I see him, most likely I will break his head off. You say you don't want to lose me and you don't want a divorce, but your actions over the past months tell a completely different story. You had enough time to come to your senses, but you didn't. Every week I get a report on what you've been up to, and it seems like you just keep digging yourself a hole. And yes, I have photos and videos. Plus, I now go to consultations for an hour every day. It's difficult, but it reveals a lot to me. I told the psychologist our whole story, how we met, how we fell in love with each other and got married. I told her about that party last year, how you publicly humiliated me and John, and what happened next. We're still working on it, but as far as I'm concerned, my love for you has literally clouded my mind. In short, I was blinded by love. I don't understand everything about this psychological nonsense, but that's the gist of it. You must understand that at that time, I only wanted you to be happy. I sacrificed my feelings, hoping that my tolerance would somehow bring us closer. But this did not happen. You offered no balance, no mutual respect. The more I gave you, the more you took and the more you demanded. And honestly, I was neither strong enough nor courageous enough to stand up to you and make you stop. Plus, I knew John could beat me if I tried anything. I admit that this was a weakness of mine, but now I am working on improving it. You say you love me, but do you really love me? You deprived me of my own bed for months. You deprived me of all physical intimacy, giving everything to John and Brenda. Now I find out that you are having fun with whole crowds of men at the same time. You even deprived me of normal nutrition, which almost killed me. And then you wanted to deprive me of my own children by planning for me to raise John's child. Hell, I could die there in the garage and you wouldn't care. This is not love, Linda. This is hatred. You must really hate me for what you did. All I ever did was love you, and you repaid me by destroying me. Remember one thing, Linda. I am now not the same person who left a month and a half ago. There's no way in hell I'll put up with your antics anymore. If that makes me a monster, then so be it. You yourself made me this way, and I hope that now you are happy. It's time for me to finish. See you later. Mark. The letter ended. Linda put the letter down and tears rolled down her cheeks. The reality of what she and Brenda had done began to really hit her. Hey, friend, Brenda said. Are you okay? No, Linda sobbed. I wanted Mark to become strong so that he could fight back against me. I never thought he would turn into this. He doesn't even want to touch me anymore. Brenda took the letter and frowned as she read it. Who is this girl he dreams of? She asked. He said it was someone you both knew. Do you know who it could be? Linda shook her head. I have no idea, she said. It could be anyone. Do you really hate Mark? Brenda asked. No, Linda answered. But he thinks I hate him, and I don't know if I can convince him otherwise. Maybe you shouldn't tell him about the STD you picked up at the last party, Brenda suggested. Oh God, no, Linda said. This will be the end of everything. Maybe don't write to him this week, Brenda said. Let him worry a little. Trust me, he's weak. He will crawl back and beg for forgiveness. I don't think so, Linda replied. But you're probably right. I'm not able to write now. I just want to lie down and cry. I ruined everything between us so much. I just wanted to have a little fun. I know, honey, Brenda said, hugging Linda. Let's go lie down and hug, okay? Linda did not write the letter, but a week later, she received a response again. Linda, the letter began, I didn't get your answer, so I thought I'd just make sure you were okay. I'm fine here. Counseling helps me a lot, as does diet and exercise. I'm stronger now than ever. The latest report on your movements looks good. Looks like you're doing more work than fun with John. Perhaps it's because of that sickness you picked up at the last party. Yes, I know about this. In general, write if you wish. I'll be back in a little over a month, and we'll end this farce called marriage. Goodbye, Mark. The letter ended briefly. He's not begging for forgiveness at all, Linda said, handing the letter to Brenda. On the contrary, he seems determined to divorce me. Well, if he's strong enough to get a divorce, we'll hire our own lawyer and rip him off his ass, Brenda said. Are you going to write to him? I don't know, Linda answered. I don't think this will bring any results. I lost it. Maybe we should just cut ties and start looking for a new apartment. For what? Brenda asked. We already have a place, and your weakling husband is paying for it. Just trust me on this, Brenda, okay? Linda asked. Whatever you say, Brenda replied. We still have some time, however. Linda, tormented by disappointment, did not write to her husband and spent most of her time working as many hours as possible to save up for a new apartment. She and Brenda went to parties with John and his friends a couple of times when Linda received confirmation that she was clean, but for a month she did not receive a single response from Mark, and soon the 3-month period came to an end. On Friday after work, Linda and Brenda returned home and were surprised to find several black bags of trash outside the garage. What is this? Brenda asked. I don't know, Linda answered. Maybe we should call the office. Good idea, Brenda agreed. When they entered the apartment, they saw Mark standing at the kitchen table. He looked completely different in a denim shirt and jeans. His hair was shorter, and he himself became noticeably more muscular, confident, and fit. Jenny, Linda's cousin, was sitting on the sofa. She was wearing a short t-shirt that showed her midriff and tiny torn shorts that barely covered her body. Linda had not seen her since her marriage and noted that her cousin still resembled a young Catherine Bell, with her dark hair and languid eyes. "Mark?" Linda asked in surprise. "Is it really you? God, you look beautiful. You're just handsome, honestly. God, how I missed you." She started towards him, but stopped when he raised his hand, signaling for her not to come closer. Linda looked at Mark in confusion, then at Jenny, wondering why her cousin was in their apartment. "Mark, what is Jenny doing here?" Linda asked, not hiding her surprise. "You'll find out soon," Mark answered calmly. "By the way, I have something for you," he added, holding up a small paper bag. He threw it in her direction, and Linda, catching the package, looked at it warily. "Call it a souvenir if you want." "I know how much you like John's big size," Mark said, his face unreadable. Linda opened the package in surprise and looked inside. Her eyes widened in horror when she saw that at the bottom of the bag lay a man's penis. Shocked, she slowly raised her eyes to Mark, not believing what she was seeing. "What did you do?" she whispered, barely able to say the words. "I'll call the police and send you to jail." Mark grinned, not showing an ounce of fear. "No need," he answered calmly. "I've already talked to the police. Remember when I said that your boyfriend John was cheating on you with other married women?" "Yes," Linda said quietly, unable to take her eyes off the package in her hands. "So it turned out that one of the husbands of these women is my classmate. We flew home together, and on the way I dropped him off at his house. He lives not far from here in Garden Grove. And do you know who we found there?" "Jonah," Linda whispered, barely breathing. "Exactly," Mark nodded. "John was just having sex with my friend's wife. But he didn't just catch him. John, as always, lost his head and attacked my friend with a knife. But my friend was able to snatch the knife from him and, so to speak, let him feel the consequences. So your John was left without his main dignity. Believe me, I didn't plan to bring this here, but I don't plan to regret it." Jenny laughed as if she found the whole situation funny. Brenda looked like she was about to throw up. "Where is John now?" Linda asked quietly, having difficulty comprehending what was happening. "He was taken to the hospital," Mark said. "I don't know which one, and frankly, I don't care. The paramedics said he would survive, but I don't think he'll be having affairs with married women anytime soon. By the way, you should have a visitor. Right now," he added, glancing at his watch. At the same second, there was a knock on the door. "This is probably for you," Mark said to Linda. Linda opened the door and saw a man wearing a polo shirt and nice trousers. "Are you Linda Smith?" asked the man. "Yes, it's me," Linda replied. He handed her the envelope. "You have a summons," he said. "Is there a certain Brenda Smith here too?" Brenda walked to the door. "I'm Brenda," she said. He handed her another envelope. "You also have a summons," he said. "Have a good day." Linda looked into her envelope, then looked at Mark in shock. "Are you filing for divorce because of adultery and cruelty?" she asked. "Yes," said Mark. "And I also filed a lawsuit against Brenda. You both should be grateful that I didn't file a criminal case against you. In the envelope, you will also find a restraining order requiring you to stay at least 500 feet away from me and this apartment." He looked at Jenny. "Could you go get the garage door remotes from their cars?" "Of course, Mark," she said and walked out the door. "What?" Linda asked. "You said that we would discuss everything when you return. Please, Mark, I don't want a divorce." "I'm back, and we are talking about this now, and frankly, honey, I don't give a damn what you want anymore," Mark said. "There's just one more matter we need to take care of before you both leave." By this time, Jenny had already returned with the remote control for the gate. Mark motioned for her to take a seat by the bedroom door. "You've probably wondered why your cousin Jenny is here," Mark said. "Yes, I was interested," Linda replied. "Well, she's the girl from my dreams," Mark said. "Please go to the bedroom." Brenda and Linda exchanged glances and walked slowly into the bedroom. They immediately noticed two major changes. "Where is our bed?" Linda asked. "You mean that bed you shared with John and Brenda and God knows who else, right?" Mark asked. "I replaced it with a new one and took the old one to the dump. I wasn't going to sleep on the one you and your lovers polluted." "What is this doing here?" Brenda asked, pointing to a large dog crate mounted on boards that had been placed on top of two dining room chairs. "Jenny and I have an argument," Mark said. "She thinks that two bitches can easily fit in this cage, since it is designed for two Great Danes. I don't think so. I want you to prove me wrong." "What?" Brenda asked in shock. "You heard me," Mark said. "You made me sleep in this cage for months in the garage. Now it's time to pay tribute. Get inside." "I won't," Brenda said defiantly. "Look, we can do this the good way or the bad way," Mark said as Jenny pulled a wide piece of duct tape off a roll that was lying on the dresser. "I don't care how. Decide for yourself. You have 5 seconds." Linda took Brenda's hand and leaned towards her. "Just do it," she said. "The faster we do this, the faster we get out of here. I don't want problems." "You're crazy, but okay," Brenda said and walked over to the now open cage door. She bent over and crawled inside. The cage was tight, but high enough for her to sit upright. Mark looked at Linda. "Get in," he told her. Linda looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled, but there was not a drop of amusement in his smile. "I'm the monster you helped create, bitch," he growled. "Like, now get inside." She wiped her tears and crawled into the cage. There was so little space that both women sat cross-legged, their heads resting on the roof of the cage, and they were pressed closely together. He closed the door and secured it with a plastic clip. "Comfortable?" he asked them sarcastically. "No? Great. Now enjoy the show." Jenny walked up to Linda and looked into her eyes. "Do you want to know what's wrong?" she asked. Linda nodded, looking at her pleadingly. "Please," she whispered. "I'm returning what you stole from me 3 years ago," Jenny said. "I don't understand," Linda replied. "Don't lie, bitch," Jenny replied. "You knew very well that I was crazy about Mark when I started hunting him. You knew how I felt about him, but you deliberately targeted him to take him away from me. I was about to confess my feelings to him when you intervened. You never truly loved him. You only liked the way you could manipulate him and use him for your benefit. You knew he would do anything for your happiness, and you used that to get your way. So I waited," Jenny continued. "I knew that sooner or later your true nature would emerge, and it did on his last birthday. God, how disgusting it was to see how you behaved with that bastard you came with. Then you and Brenda started making fun of Mark. He told me a little about it, but he was too ashamed to tell me everything. Then I received a letter from him where he wrote about how he left for the camp and about his intentions. And then he also told me about his dreams," Jenny said. "We started corresponding. I asked him not to tell you that I was the girl from his dreams. The thing is, I never stopped loving him. And the fact that he was willing to open up to me in this way made me realize that I had to get him back. I'm going to take care of him in a way you never can. So now you bastards can sit here in the cage you put him in and watch a real woman show her man how much she loves him." With that, she kicked off her sandals, then took off her short t-shirt, throwing it on the floor and exposing her breasts. She unzipped her mini shorts and let them fall to the floor. Taking a step forward, she pulled off her thin underwear and remained completely naked in front of Mark. Mark silently looked at Jenny without looking away, as if fascinated. She ran her hands over her body with an ease and confidence that would have embarrassed any other woman. Looking up at him, she smiled. "Like what you see, honey?" she asked. "Oh, yes," he replied, with a hint of sincere admiration. "You're amazing." "More amazing than her?" Jenny glanced at Linda. "Absolutely," Mark answered firmly, without looking at Linda, who was crying quietly with her head down. "Mark, please don't do this," Linda sobbed. "Shut up, bitch," he growled. "This is nothing compared to the hell you both put me through. What, you know how to mock, but you can't take a blow back. It's a pity. He turned back to Jenny, who stepped even closer to him, wrapping her arms around him and pressing herself against him. "Let's see what's under your jeans," she said, unbuttoning his shirt. She took off his shirt and t-shirt and gasped when she saw his now muscular chest and ripped open stomach. Linda and Brenda's eyes widened as they watched. This was definitely not the same person who left 3 months ago. While they watched, Jenny kissed Mark's body. Kneeling down, she took off his shoes and socks. Then she reached over and loosened his belt. She unbuttoned his jeans and pulled down his zipper. "Do it, Jenny," Linda begged. "Please don't." "I'm just getting started, bitch," she said with a smile on her face and a sparkle in her eyes. "I've wanted to do this for a really long time." She pulled down his jeans and boxers at the same time. Mark stood in front of the girls, slightly nervous, as Jenny carefully helped him take off his jeans and t-shirt. There was silence in the room, but there was something significant in the air. Jenny looked at him carefully, smiling and touching his shoulders. Linda and Brenda watched with interest and some excitement. "Look at him," Jenny said, her voice sounding soft and caring. "He's so beautiful, isn't he?" Linda nodded, feeling different emotions mingling inside her. "You're so wonderful," Jenny added, looking into Mark's eyes. She reached out to hug him. Mark returned the hug, hugging her back and feeling his tension gradually dissolve. "It's all yours," he said quietly, looking at Jenny. She smiled back at him, then turned to Linda and said softly, "Look, dear, this is a real moment of intimacy and care. This is something we can all learn from." Linda stood listening and watching this heartfelt exchange, feeling tears fill her eyes. Jenny was next to Mark. Their hugs were tender and reverent, and their smiles were sincere. Mark and Jenny slowly sat down on the bed, their hands intertwined, and they hugged even tighter. They spoke to each other in whispers, sharing their thoughts and experiences. This whole moment was filled with warmth, mutual understanding, and, most importantly, care. "I love you so much, baby," she said. "I love you too," he said as Linda sobbed in her cage. "My body is all yours if you want it," she said. "Only yours." "Yes," he said, repeating her previous statement. After a couple of minutes, they got out of bed and stood in front of the cage. "Okay, you've proven your point," Linda said. "You humiliated me. Are you happy now?" "What, you weren't having fun?" he asked. "Of course it was. I don't feel so good when it happens to you, do I, bitch?" Mark grinned as Jenny walked up to her and looked Nancy in the eyes. "Let me tell you how things will be," she said. "First, you signed the divorce papers. After approximately 60 days, the divorce will be final. As soon as this happens, Mark and I will get married, and I will spend the rest of my life taking care of my wonderful man. Trust me, I plan to have sex with him to death and take all his children, so sign the papers and leave." "What if I don't want to sign?" Linda asked. "Then you too will be the next amateur online adult sensations," Mark said as he pulled his jeans and boxers back on. "And all your friends and family will see your debut." "You wouldn't dare," Brenda exclaimed. "Don't push me, bitch," Mark said. "You deserve all this and more. Just be grateful that we're not going to throw you two in the local landfill." "Oh my God," Linda said quietly. "You have turned into a monster." "What did you expect, bitch?" Mark asked. "So are you going to sign the papers or not?" "I didn't even look at them," she replied. "Don't worry about it," Mark said. "You will keep your clothes and personal belongings, which, by the way, we have already put in garbage bags and placed in the garage. You will still have the car that you are paying for. Other than that, you won't get anything. You won't even be able to keep my last name or the rings I gave you. Yes, it's unfair and one-sided, but I think it's all you deserve after what you've done." "Where should we go?" Linda asked. "Where will we live?" "Not my problem, bitch," he replied. "And I don't care at all. I know you have a key to John's apartment. Maybe he'll let you stay with him for a couple of days. Lord knows he'll need all the help he can get, at least for a while. And then who knows?" "Okay," Linda finally said. "You won. I'll sign the papers and leave." Smart decision, bitch, Mark said. He turned to Jenny. Could you take their keys to the apartment while I show them out? No problem, honey, she replied, kissing him. She left the room, and he took a pair of scissors and cut the plastic tie securing the cage. I'm sorry, Mark, Linda said, squeezing out of the cramped cage. You already said that, he replied. He took her hand and pulled off the rings as she cried quietly. Would you really throw us in a landfill? She asked. In the blink of an eye, he replied. In fact, I was even thinking about leaving you there right in the cage so that the rats could feast on you a little. Their eyes widened in horror. Would you do that to your own sister? Brenda asked. I don't have a sister anymore, he answered quietly. She died for me about a year ago. Tears streamed down her cheeks as he spoke. Will you ever be able to forgive us? Linda asked. He shrugged. I don't know, he said. Maybe someday, but not today. Now go sign the damn papers and get out of my sight. Linda nodded and walked slowly into the living room. Brenda followed, wiping tears from her face. Linda took a pen and scanned the documents, then signed and initiated wherever noted. When she finished, she handed the papers to Mark. He checked to make sure nothing was missing and then placed the documents on the counter. I'll give it to the lawyer tomorrow, he said. Now get out of here. And tell John that if he ever comes near me or Jenny again, he will pray to God that he will never be born. Okay, Mark, I'll tell you, Linda replied. Goodbye. Bye, he said as the door closed behind her. Jenny walked up to Mark and hugged him tightly. She looked up and noticed the conflicting emotions on his face. Everything will be fine, honey, she told him quietly. I'm here for you, and I will never leave you. He looked down at her sweet face, lifted her chin, and kissed her tenderly. I hope you mean it sincerely, he said. Yes, honey, she replied. I've been waiting for you all this time, and I'm not going to let you go. And I promise that I will never, ever treat you like she did. I will keep your word, he said. I love you, Mark, she said. I have always loved and will always love. I love you too, he said. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for round 2, she said, smiling. He smiled back, picked her up, and headed into the bedroom. I'm always ready for this, he said, laying her on the bed. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.